Welcome, children of God, loved and saved by Jesus. This is Pastor Paul Steinberg. Great to have you join us on this podcast again as we take Monday through Friday, 10 minutes a day to disciple ourselves so we can disciple our kids. We're getting ready for Christmas when this is being recorded and first broadcast. We're getting ready for the Christmas story, but I'm going to do something a little different. We had the Christmas story several weeks back to get us ready. Instead, over the course of the next couple weeks, instead of the 12 days of Christmas, we're going to take a look at the 12 disciples plus a few other heroes from the Bible and take a look at how we can disciple our children like them. Do you know a child who thinks too much of stuff and not enough of people? Do you know, maybe you know some adults like this that are focused on maybe power or position or, again, things, cash, instead of relationships. They overvalue the money and they undervalue the relationships. They think if they have the stuff, that then they can manipulate the relationships, but it just never works. You can't force a relationship. You can't power a relationship. And that seems to be the sin that they fall for. They just overvalue that. If you know someone like that, maybe you see it in yourself, maybe you see it in your kids, maybe you see it in some different classrooms. They just don't get it. Then you know someone who seems to be like Matthew or Levi from the Bible, where you need to disciple that child who struggles with that, aware of those things, and help them value the most important relationship, that of Jesus, and then to value the relationships that go around it. Today, we're going to take a look at the calling of Matthew and see how Jesus was willing to disciple somebody who valued stuff over relationships. Listen to God's word from Mark chapter 2, beginning at verse 13. Once again, Jesus went out beside the lake. A large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," Jesus told him, and Levi got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. When the teachers of the law who were Pharisees saw him eating with sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said to them, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." My dear parents and coaches and teachers, all our kids are sick. But we all have a slightly different disease. It's the same thing. It's sin, but we just have different, showing symptoms, different struggles. And one of them might be overvaluing stuff over relationships. That's what Matthew's problem was. That's what was a tax collector problem was. If you decided to work for the Roman government in whatever way that you collected taxes, whereas it seemed like Matthew was sitting at it was a road tax, it didn't matter. You signed up with the enemy. You signed up with the hated people, and people hated you. People disconnected from you. People didn't want to know. And you knew that in advance, and yet you decided to do it because you liked the pay, you liked the position. Maybe you liked a little bit of power. The tax collectors had, some of the Roman military behind them. You liked that position, and you gave up your relationships. And you can see this in what I just read, that because they gave up their relationships with everybody else, they kind of banded together. Or Matthew had a bunch of friends who were tax collectors and sinners, and because that's the only relationships they had. You need relationships. But Matthew, he didn't think it was that important. He gave it up. He sold himself out. And maybe you find that you're like that too. If you're an American like me, it's just part of what we do. Now, just the other day, I had an experience where I overvalued stuff. I like to say this isn't a minor way, but I always like to value, and judge myself softer. But I was getting ready for Christmas, and I love putting up decorations. I love it. I love the Christmas tree. I love the Christmas lights. And no one in my family really gets into it. Some of my kids have helped me in the past, but it's really what I do. So this Saturday, I was getting all set. I got my stuff out of the basement. Now, I love a real Christmas tree, But in our house, we can't have a real Christmas tree because my wife has real allergies to the Christmas tree. It'd be a miserable time. So we have a fake tree. And I have this tree that's like 10 years old. I really like it. It fits right in our spot. And I got it out like I have in the past, took it out of the basement, got it all set up, and I put all the lights on it, and I got everything. And I really was enjoying it Saturday. It took about 2.5 hours to get everything all set up. And then I was just plain enjoying the lights. And I was, later my wife came home, and I was proud to turn the lights off and just watch the Christmas lights. And I sat next to my wife, and we watched a Christmas movie on TV, and then all of a sudden, the tree started falling down, and I thought maybe my dog had pulled it down, but it wasn't. I went over there and tried to save the tree, and it started to come apart, and I couldn't rescue it, and in frustration, I kind of threw it down. I mean, I just let it fall down, and a bunch of ornaments broke. I'd like to think I didn't throw it down, but I threw it down. I was kind of an idiot and a fool, and it was really just about stuff. Right? In that moment, I was upset about stuff and how it wasn't working. I was upset about how my tree had fallen down, but it was just stuff. And I didn't get any happier when I had to pick the tree up and throw away some of the broken bulbs and take all the lights off slowly. And then I had to carry all the pieces of the Christmas tree out to the garbage and just throw them away, because what I noticed was that the bottom, the plastic foundation, had really all broken and torn apart, and I couldn't believe I missed that. It had just split in two, and it wasn't going to be fixable. It was just out, and I got sad and distressed, and it was just stuff. Stuff can be your temptation, and in the moment, or it could be your constant one. In the movie Lord of the Rings, if you know Gollum, he loved this ring he called Precious, and it wasn't even about how the ring was useful, how he could wear it to become invisible. He just liked having it. It just consumed him. And maybe you see that in some of your kids. And the best way to deal with that is to bring it up directly and talk to your kids about what they like and what they value and how they maybe struggle with that, and to show them how money is really just liquid time and talents and is really designed to bless others. Now, maybe if they have a focus on money, they can use that as a tool to get more money, to save more money, and be able to be generous with more money than anybody else. And maybe that's not you, but to sit down with your kids, and if you see it in advance, try to get them already trained not to keep money for themselves, but even if they're only getting $1 a week, how to use that money for Jesus, how to choose a percentage of it to give it away, how to choose a percentage of it to help people. I mean, in our lesson, the Pharisees, they didn't think much of souls either, but not because of stuff. They valued their own souls, and they thought they were pretty awesome. But they were very quick to point out that sin in others. If overvaluing stuff is not your sin, be careful not to come down really hard on your kids if it's theirs, because Jesus didn't come down hard on Matthew. He called them away from it. He called them into his kingdom and into his service. And Matthew, right away, had a party and invited his friends over to meet Jesus. I remember right around Christmas, I had a friend who sold Christmas trees. He was a landlord, too, and he had read this text, and he had a Matthew party where he invited all of the people that rented from him for a big Christmas party. He fed them, gave them all this stuff and presents, and he invited me over so I could connect with them and talk about Jesus with them and invite them to church. He used his opportunities. He used his situation. And this guy, Bob, he was a business guy. And this was good for business, too, but he knew he could use his business savvy and use it for Jesus. Disciple your kids to be that way, to be like Matthew. See, Jesus doesn't choose us because we are naturally useful or attractive to him. We always value stuff more than we should. We always value stuff over people more than God does. God doesn't value stuff at all. He values the people. That's why he gave stuff. He takes us and makes us into Matthews and makes us into eternity changers and witnesses. Disciple your children if they're like Matthew. Any thoughts or questions, send them to pastorsteinberg@gmail.com. Blessings as you get ready for Christmas. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look on you with favor and give you peace. Amen. The Christ for Disciples podcast is produced by Chaplains in Schools, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We disciple students, families, and teachers, 2/3 of which have no church home. Chaplains in Schools was established in 2016 to serve this enormous mission field and meet students and their families in a loving, caring place where their educational needs are met, and then builds a relationship and starts a conversation about their spiritual needs. By reaching out to them through weekly chapel services, faculty and family Bible study baptisms, school chapel services, and Sunday worship. Please support the work of Chaplains in Schools and check out chaplainsinschools.org and our Facebook page at Chaplains in Schools. Please sign up to receive our email updates and consider supporting our work through your donations. As you listen to this podcast shows you want to disciple children for Jesus. Help us disciple even more.